Hello children, today I will be discussing the questions which are given in your book NCERT book from the chapter The Fundamental Unit of Life, and you will go through your notes, go through this video and then complete those questions in your notebook. Hello children, so let us start discussing some question answers which are given in your NCERT book. We will be discussing both in-text questions and those given at the end of the chapter. So let us begin with the first one. Who discovered cells and how? So Robert Hooke in 1665 discovered cells for the first time. How did he discover them? By observing thin slices of the cork. Now cork is a dead tissue which is found on the bark of trees, and he observed these cells under a very primitive type of microscope. Why is the cell called the structural and functional unit of life? This is something we have discussed at length, so let us try to revise that concept. You have to explain both the terms, structural as well as functional. So remember, cell is that smallest unit which forms the structure of all living organisms, whether that organism is unicellular or multicellular. So it basically forms all the structure which is living, and it is also a functional unit of life because all the functions which are required for something to be living, that is all the life processes, are performed within a cell. So cell not only forms the structure but also performs all the functions which are required to be alive. That's why it is known as structural and functional unit of life. Next, how do substances like CO2 and water move in and out of the cell? Discuss. So children, you do not have to answer this question in just one sentence or one line, that CO2 moves through diffusion and water moves through osmosis. First sentence could be that one, but then you have to elaborate that why and how the concentration of CO2 is supposed to be more. For example, if the cell is doing respiration and it is continuously producing CO2, then its relative concentration will be more inside the cell and less in the outside environment. So the CO2 will diffuse out of the cell. Now water. How will water move in or out of the cell? It depends on the relative concentration of the surrounding material in which the cell is present. So if the cytoplasm is hypertonic, then water will move in. If the cytoplasm is hypotonic as compared to the outside environment, then the water will move out of the cell. So you have to explain this answer like this if there is discuss mentioned in your question. Now, why is the plasma membrane called a selectively permeable membrane? So, start your answer by writing plasma membrane is also known as a selectively permeable or semi-permeable membrane, which indicates that it only allows certain substances to move in or out of the cell. That is how it selects which substances can enter or exit the cell, and it does not allow other substances to enter or exit the cell. Since it selects what goes in or goes out, that's why it is known as a selectively permeable membrane. So let us discuss some more questions and we will be covering the entire chapter. So let us do more questions, children. So we have to fill in the gaps in the following table, illustrating the differences between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell. And for example, some of the differences are already given, that prokaryotic cells are generally smaller as compared to the eukaryotic cell, which range from 5 to 100 micrometer, and prokaryotic cells range from 1 to 10 micrometers. So nuclear region in eukaryotic cells is well defined and is surrounded by a nuclear membrane, but nuclear region is poorly defined in the prokaryotic cell and is known as nucleoid. Single chromosome is found in prokaryotic cells, while more than one chromosome is found in eukaryotic cells. Membrane-bound cell organelles are absent in prokaryotic cells. Membrane-bound cell organelles such as mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, etc. are present in eukaryotic cells. With this, Let us do this one. What is a darkly colored spherical or oval dot-like structure near the center of each cheek cell? Now for the cheek cell, you should be consulting activity 5.7. And what is its function? So the darkly colored spherical or oval dot-like structure is nucleus of the cell, and the function of nucleus is to govern all the metabolic activities of the cell and also help in the cell division. Nucleus is also known as the brain of the cell. So children, you have to identify that which structure we are asking about, and then you have to write all its functions. Can you name the two cell organelles which we have studied that contain their own genetic material? Now try to recall. Mitochondria and plastids are semi-autonomous cell organelles because they contain their own DNA, genetic material, and ribosomes as well. So mitochondria and plastids. If the organization of a cell is destroyed due to some physical or chemical influence, what will happen? If the organization of the cell is destroyed due to some factor, then the cell will not be able to perform all its living functions and it will die. Why are lysosomes known as suicide bags? So lysosomes are known as suicide bags because other than keeping the cell clean and digesting the ingested food material, sometimes if the cell has undergone some irreparable damage, so much so that it cannot perform its function properly, then the lysosomes burst, releasing all their enzymes, thus destroying the very cell in which they are present, and that is why they are known as suicide bags of the cell. Where are proteins synthesized inside the cell? So the cell organelle which is involved in protein synthesis is ribosome. Now ribosomes in eukaryotic cells can be found freely in the cytoplasm, or they can be found attached on the membrane of endoplasmic reticulum. But the main organelle that synthesizes protein is ribosomes. So let us make a comparison between plant cells and animal cells. So indirectly this question is asking us that what are the major differences between these two types of the cells. So let us talk about them. Plant cells contain a cell wall, and that's why mostly their shape is definite. Animal cells lack cell wall. Plant cells contain a permanent and very large vacuole which occupies almost 50 to 90% of their total cell volume. Animal cells have smaller and temporary vacuoles depending on various requirements of the cell at a particular time. Plant vacuoles perform the function of food storage as well as they provide turgidity and rigidity to the cell. Animal vacuoles have different functions such as food vacuole, uh, waste vacuole, and water regulation in the cell. Plant cells contain plastids. Animal cells lack plastids. Plant cells do not have centrosome. Animal cells have centrosome. So these are few basic differences that you can remember and write. Now, how is a prokaryotic cell different from a eukaryotic cell? So we have just before this slide attempted one such question. So we will try to recall all that information. Prokaryotic cells are smaller as compared to the eukaryotic cells. They do not have a well-defined nuclear region, and the genetic material is present in the nucleoid region. Eukaryotic cells have a well-defined double membrane bound nucleus inside of which the genetic material is safely stored. Prokaryotic cells contain one chromosome. Eukaryotic cells contain many chromosomes. And membrane-bound cell organelles will be absent in the prokaryotic cell. A eukaryotic cell will have membrane-bound organelles for division of labor and better efficiency of the cellular functions. Now, what would happen if the plasma membrane ruptures or breaks down? So if the plasma membrane ruptures, then it will not be able to regulate the in and out movement of various substances. the main function of plasma membrane is to keep the inner environment segregated from the outer environment. And if it breaks down, then there will not be any segregation or barrier kind of thing between cytoplasm and the outside environment. In the absence of maintenance of inside environment or the homeostasis of the cell will eventually die because its inner environment is changing according to the outside environment. What would happen to the life of a cell if there was no Golgi apparatus? Before answering this question, let us try to recall what are the functions of Golgi apparatus. So Golgi body is involved in storing various compounds, modifying them, packaging them, and then disposing them to the target site. By which I mean that they receive various compounds, they modify them, and when they send those compounds, the target could be within the cell or outside the cell. And if it is outside the cell, that means the cell is secreting something. So all those activities, that is packaging, modification, and secretory activities of the cell will be hampered. Also remember that Golgi apparatus along with the endoplasmic reticulum forms lysosomes. So in the absence of Golgi body, lysosomes will not be formed, and all those functions which are performed by lysosome will also be not performed, and that's why the cell will not be able to perform its life processes normally. Now, which organelle is known as powerhouse of the cell? Why? So remember children, whenever a question is broken into various parts, do not ignore any part. I have seen multiple copies that children answer the first half of the question and they think that it is taken for granted that even if they don't answer the second part, they will get the full marks. So this is not going to happen. So pay attention to each and every part. First part is asking which organelle is known as powerhouse of the cell. So you mentioned very clearly that mitochondria is known as the powerhouse of the cell. Now starts the actual job. Why? So you have to write that for any function to take place, energy is required. And in the living systems, the energy is stored in the form of ATP molecules, adenosine triphosphate molecules. Now this adenosine triphosphate molecule is synthesized on the inner membrane of the mitochondria, and that is why the mitochondria is known as powerhouse of the cell. Where do the lipids and proteins constituting the cell membrane get synthesized? So remember, lipids are synthesized in the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, and proteins, those specialized proteins which form the plasma membrane, are synthesized on the rough endoplasmic reticulum, and together they form the cell membrane. This process is also known as membrane biogenesis. How does amoeba obtain its food? So once again, in this kind of an answer, you just don't write that amoeba obtains its food through endocytosis. That will only get you maybe half marks. But then you have to explain it in 2-3 lines that to import solid food particles inside the cell, animal cells engulf that food particle by surrounding it through their flexible plasma membrane, and ultimately that particle is imported inside the cell in the form of a food vacuole or food vesicle. So here once again mention that flexibility of the plasma membrane is something which makes this endocytosis process possible, and that is how amoeba obtains its food. If it comes in more marks section, then please make the relevant diagram also. Now, what is osmosis? What is its significance for a cell? So first you have to define what is osmosis. So osmosis is the spontaneous movement of water molecules from its high concentration region towards the low concentration region with the semi-permeable membrane. So there has to be a semi-permeable membrane, and here we are talking about the plasma membrane. Now what is its significance for the cell? The significance of osmosis in a cell is that the cell obtains its required amount of water and nutrients through the osmosis process, and particularly endosmosis process. Also, if the cell has to lose extra water, then it will perform exosmosis, through which it can get rid of the excess water that it has. So that is the significance of osmosis for the cell. So this is very interesting and experiment based question. Take 4 peeled potato halves and scoop each one out to make potato cups. So suppose you are taking half of each peeled potato, and from the central portion you are removing some of the flesh. So you will end up having cup-like structures made up of potato. One of these potato cups should be made from a boiled potato. So if you have taken 4, then 3 should be of raw potato and one of them should be a boiled potato. Now put each potato cup in a trough containing water. Okay, all 4 are kept in identical condition, that is a trough containing water. Now in cup A, you just label that trough as A, B, C and D, and in the cup A you have to put nothing, it will be empty. In cup B you are putting 1 teaspoon of sugar. In cup C you are putting 1 teaspoon of salt, and the boiled one is labeled as cup D. So we are again putting 1 teaspoon of sugar in the boiled one. Now all these cups will be left undisturbed in their water trough for 2 hours. So all of them have to be in the water for exact amount of time, equal amount of time. Then we have to observe whatever is seen over there. So what do we see? That water has gathered in the hollowed portion of cup B and C. So B and C are those cups where we have put sugar and salt. And why? Whatever is the observation of A, we have to tell that. And why the presence of A was necessary in this experiment? Because we have not put anything in that cup. And explain why water does not gather in the hollowed portion of A and D. So this situation is telling us that in A and D we do not see that the water has gathered. Now we have to explain all these observations. So let us talk about the first one. Why water gathers in the hollowed portion of B and C? Since the potato is kept in water and its central cavity is containing sugar and salt, that is solute. So that cavity is highly hypertonic as compared to the water, and the wall of the potato cup is acting like a semi-permeable membrane. So endosmosis it starts taking place. Water from the trough starts entering inside the cavity of the potato, because B and C both are having a lot of salt, whether it is rock salt or it is sugar, they both are solutes, so they will attract water molecules. Now, why is potato A necessary? Because remember, A was kept empty. So why is this one necessary? Because we had to make sure that while scooping the potato, we have not formed any hole-like thing through which the water is entering. We have to show that all the potato cups have intact walls and the water is not entering through any hole. So potato A is actually a control. Control are those parts of our experiment which must be there, otherwise you have no authenticity to your data. So potato A is just showing that the whole process of scooping the potato was foolproof and it has not damaged the wall of the potato. So it is a control. Control is always necessary for the experiment for the authenticity of your data. Now explain why water does not gather in the A and D. So I will explain this separately. A, let us talk about this. This is empty. So outside the potato cup is water. In the central cavity there is no solute. So there is nothing which will attract the water. So endosmosis will not take place in the absence of solute. Now, what is special about D? So, let me give you a hint. You have to consult activity 5.6 very carefully and few lines in its conclusion, and you will find your answer. But here I will briefly explain that D was made up of a boiled potato. So when we boil the potato, we are actually damaging all its cellular structures, including the plasma membrane. And dead cells do not exhibit the process of osmosis. So that is why if the cells of boiled potato cup are dead, they will not perform the function of selectively permeable uh, nature of the plasma membrane, and that is why the water will not even enter the boiled potato. So, last two questions are: what is cell division? What are its types? So, cell division is the process through which an existing cell gives rise to more cells, or through which a cell gives rise to daughter cells. What are its types? So cell division is basically of two types: mitosis and meiosis. Mitosis is also known as equational division, and meiosis is known as reductional division. Next question: which type of cell division is required for growth and repair of the body, and which type is involved in the formation of gametes? So, mitosis is the cell division which is required for growth and repair of the body, and meiosis is involved in formation of gametes. Now, this question can be asked in 1 marks, so you will write only this much. But if the same question is asked in 2 or 3 marks, you have to highlight the key points about mitosis as well as meiosis. So, children, you have to prepare yourselves with full conceptual knowledge, and depending upon how much weightage a particular question carries, you will answer that question. Do not take shortcuts. Pay attention to all the parts of any question. Pay attention to certain words like discuss, explain, elaborate, or mention, give names of. These kind of words should be paid attention to, because they help you in deciding that how much you are supposed to write in that particular answer. So I think this was helpful, and you can ask me if you have some more doubts. So complete your assignment now and start sending it soon. Thank you.